Welcome to the Outer Realm with Michelle DeRoche and Amelia Pisano. Airing live on the United Public Radio Network, 105.3 FM in New Orleans.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Wednesday night segment of The Outer Realm. We are broadcasting live on the United Public Radio Network, UFO Paranormal Radio Network, 105.3 from the Gulf Coast, 107.7 FM from New Orleans. We're fully sponsored by the amazing people over at Folgers Coffee who have been a part of our journey for the last several years. Thank you, Folgers. We couldn't do it without you, nor will we want to. Also, big thank you to Justin Snicker, a.k.a. Dr. Snick, the sonic surgeon, for the contribution of his time, his music, and his voice for the intro you just heard. He's an award-winning composer of Halloween, horror, sci-fi, and dark wave electronic music, which can be found on all of your favorite music streaming platforms. Also, big thank you to Steve McGinnis, the artist behind our banners here at the show, our logos. Check him out on Instagram, Facebook. Also specializes in the horror and Halloween genre, but does incredible commission pieces of any sort, including pets. Really awesome pet art. Just amazing. Anyway, check him out. So tonight, kicking off spooky month, October 1st. Woohoo! My dear friend and fellow UPRN host, Lorilei Potvin from Angel Rock and Beneath the Hollow Moon with Kerrilynn Shellhorn is here. We're going to be diving into some paranormal events and locations and stories, and we might even get into some origins of exorcisms and deliverances and ancient and modern times. We're just going to be all over the place, and we're going to have a nice open parlay with you guys. And it looks like the Outer Realm Facebook is giving us a bit of a problem. Sometimes it kicks in. If not, guys, get on over to YouTube and check us out there, or head on over. I think Lorilai's page is active, so go check her out there as well, just to get into the chat room. Sebastian, you missed her. She was here a couple of weeks ago. She's alive and well, so no need to worry. Hello from New York City. Thank you for hanging with us tonight. Thank you. Hi, Michael. How are you? Adrian, tasking and listening. I'm happy to have you tasking and listening, and I thank you for it. Hi, Mish. How are you? Also listening. Oh, that's awesome. Happy to have you. Big thank you, Carrie. Hello. Hello, Patsy. Hello. Hello, Heidi. Look how spoiled we are. Hey, Contessa. Astrolight Paranormal. Hello. My gosh, Mark. Oh, you're a champ. Look at you. Messaging and reposted on X. Thank you. Big hugs to you as always. And I know so many people share up the show, and I apologize. I do not get on social media a whole lot. I try, and it doesn't mean I see them all right away. I get probably at least between 100 and 200 notifications a day, and sometimes things get lost. So I apologize if I have missed anyone. I'm grateful for all of you. So without further ado, my friend Lorilei Potvin. Hello.
Hello. I jinxed Facebook. That's what I did.
Yeah. Woohoo. This is good. This is good. Yeah, mine's just being ridiculous. But anyway, hopefully it'll kick back in, stop being so stubborn. But man, oh man. So hello. Kurt is here. Hello. Nice to see you guys. Wait a minute. Hold on. Yeah, gotta give Folgers a shout out. Thank you. Yep. So how are you? How are you? It's been a while since you've been on, even though we have our occasional parlays.
Well, it's been crazy. It's a sure start to the spooky month. It got kicked off with a bang. Let's put it that way.
Oh
And
boy.
then, yeah, just not peopling right now. Kind of doing what I need to do. And
Yeah.
maybe it's the colder weather coming and stuff. But I'm kind of
Nesting. Yeah. Spooky nesting.
that. I have my spooky jet. Not jet. Well, they're comfy cozies. But I'm really
Yeah.
big into the bad critter on Hello Kitty. Yes, I know I've never grown up. Her name is Karomi. Actually, she's back here, actually. And
Aw.
she's got, wears a little skull. So I
Oh,
have Hello
it's a little
Kitty.
squishy. I love it.
I'm all
I love
set.
it. I think it's awesome.
How
Well,
are you?
I'm okay. It's been a little bit crazy for me as well. It's funny you say that. Oh, what there we go too, Sherry and you. Hello.
Sherry? Mhm.
Yeah, I think it's definitely, you know, things are happening. I think people are getting very excited or people are just being affected by the different vibes that are going on out there. Some people get affected for the good, some meh, not so much. So, but
Mhm.
it is the season, it's upon us. And yes, Carrie says weather change, things like that. I think so. I mean, here it's still pretty warm and sunny. But as the days get shorter, the nights start to slowly get longer. I'm all about it. I'm actually one of those people that could live someplace that was dark a lot.
I'd be okay with that.
See,
We have a bear on the loose in our neighborhood right now too. And they're
see,
quite hungry. Yeah, my
yeah.
neighbor next to me, because they're not originally from this country and they're here for university. They're mature students, all married with kids and stuff. And the neighbor across the street smashed into their brand new car, poor guys. And then there
Oh,
have recycling bins from the city, and they had it on the side of the house and it was knocked over. And then we let them know, we let everybody know because we saw the bear already.
oh
And
boy.
somebody in Nipigon, which is less than an hour away from Thunder Bay, where I am, very
Yeah.
sadly was mauled, almost lost her life gardening
Oh,
a month ago because they're hungry. The berry crop didn't take off up here, getting ready for winter.
oh,
Mm.
that's
So
not
he
good.
let me
That's
know
terrible.
today. I saw him. He goes, our can was knocked over again.
That's so not cool. That's so not
Mhm.
cool. I mean, they do go a little bit nuts, just like in the spring, right?
Yep.
Before they go to hibernate and such, it
Yeah.
starts get a little bit cuckoo.
Mhm,
I think
mhm.
there's a few things going cuckoo out there.
That's what I was going to say. I think the whole energy, like, I don't know about you, and not getting real woo-woo just yet, though I know we are. It almost feels like something's coming, something big. I don't know what it is. It
Mm.
just feels like something's coming to me. Mhm.
Well, I actually heard other people say that,
Mhm.
and it's sort of interesting to see. I mean, it's so hard because there's so much misinformation out there, and of course, right now everything is about this atlas, right? It's like, oh, I don't know, I don't know. I think it's
I
you know
have an idea, but we'll have to save that for the Tuesday show.
Yeah, you know what? Yeah, yeah. Because I've had people reach out to me about it, and I'm just like, I'm really on the fence because Blue Beam everything, but there's some stuff that's kind of like, oh, that's a little bit different enough to kind of make you think, maybe, you
Maybe.
know. But yeah, that's the gut. It'll be good for our upcoming Tuesday show because we're gonna have lots of fun stuff planned for that.
This is an
So
interesting topic, though, that we had talked about talking about,
yes.
because you're even seeing it with the Catholic Church with exorcisms. The last Pope, I think it was, saying there's been such an
Yes.
uptick in particularly even the last 10 years. And
Yeah.
we're seeing it like they're not labeling it, but evil, like really evil, dark stuff. Even people that, if they're a little bit more well known, have been doing things that are out of character. Like, what is it that's influencing it, right?
Yeah.
Mhm,
Well, I think you see so much of it. And
mhm.
again, I mean, we can go totally uncensored in that direction too. But I believe that there are things that are not, with a bit of division. I mean, throughout
Mhm.
all of,
Absolutely.
history, there's been division. So I don't, go too deep into that. But I see things that once was hidden
Yeah.
and is no longer being hidden. It's kind of
I
like
know, like
right out
open.
there. Yes.
Yeah.
And you see things that are like, okay, you know, see it in symbolism. You'll see it in movies and things like that because it has to be in your face when some of these things are happening. It's a karmic thing. We have to expose it. It has to be there. We can't be hiding it. But people don't know what they're looking at, so it's easy to do. However, now, no, we're just doing it.
But
Holy
that's what
crap.
I'm saying. Like, I'm even not
Yeah.
even uncensored. Like, I follow true crime. And some
Yes.
of the things I am seeing, and with like younger ages, and I feel like an idiot when I'm seeing this, and I'm going, how how could you do this to another living being?
Yeah.
Whether it's an animal or it's
Yeah.
humans, or I just don't. It's evil. I don't know what
It
it's
is.
like. It checked out. Like, I don't know what it is.
It is. It's happening, and we're all sort of just sitting back, and some people it's kind of like no idea. Other people are like, I know exactly what that is. It's just,
Oh, you can see it. Yeah,
you
definitely.
know.
Mhm.
But I mean, I
Hi,
think this.
Cassie.
Hi. I think
Hope
it's a
your daughter's
time.
well. Go ahead.
I think we're in the time of the year right now where people are starting to open themselves up more as
Yeah.
well.
Mhm.
Right. And I've got another show coming on later in the month. We're going to get full on into the dangers of that. And we can touch on some of that as well
Mhm.
before we kick in. But I think Halloween, it's been my favorite. People
Mine
say,
too.
"Oh, it's a holiday." I'm like, "No, man, you have to live at my house." Especially when we have the haunted house. It's kind of like you live it. You're used to it. The decor, people come in and go, "Oh, it's this very Halloweeny." No, this is life. This is my house. you know.
Mhm.
But I don't know. I just find that this is the time of year people expose themselves more so than usual. They're more open-minded about it. They might go on ghost tours or haunted events or paranormal events, or which is,
Yep.
I always say, yes, perfect thing to do because you are with other like-minded individuals, right? And
And
you
it's safe. It's safe
it's
because
yes,
yeah.
thank you. Thank you. It's safe. Then you get those you're like, "Nah, screw it. Let's just go check things out." It's like,
But
"Okay."
I don't even tell people what I
Yeah.
do. Like, you're well known. So if you want to hide it, it's a little bit hard. But I mean, I don't tell people what I do
Mm,
unless I find if you're in a group of people and somebody mentions something that sort of nudges the door a little bit. So you ask them a little bit more about it and more about it. And eventually somebody's brave enough to speak up. And then before you know it, usually 90% of the group has had something weird, strange, haunted,
mhm,
whatever, right?
mhm.
Why is that? Like, why can't we just say it, right? Because you feel like you sound crazy.
I know. I always love it when it happens to a skeptical guy, though,
Oh, I
like a
know.
skeptical person. And only because a lot of times I used to do, a lot of events and ghost tours and things like that. And I remember on more times than not, the wife or the girlfriend dragging the husband or boyfriend
Yep,
along, saying, "You're just
always.
going to have a good time and get into this," and the guy's just like, "I don't care, whatever you want to do." And I still remember this one time where I would work the back of the line and make sure nobody got lost. If they want to take pictures, I'd catch them up
Right.
and blah, blah, blah. Right. So anyway, this woman comes out to me. She goes, "I can't find my husband." And, I said, "Okay, well, I'll just go ahead and I'm going to go in and I'll go figure it out." Right. And I see this guy standing there by himself with this weird look on his face and his
Oh,
hand
no.
is sticking out. And I come up to him, I'm going, "You all right?" And he
Mhm.
goes, "Something has my hand." I'm going, huh. This is a
Oh,
skeptical guy who's all he did the whole part of the tour is like, blah, blah, blah. I don't believe in it. And I just said, "Oh." I said, "Well, how does that feel?" And he goes, "Cold, clammy, and little." And there was history of a small, well, in the cemetery, I mean, back in the day, you'd had a lot of influenza and
yeah,
pneumonia, things like that, right? And anyway, it's known for its children's spirits, which is sad.
it is. That's why I went, oh,
I
so
know,
she said
right? It's
2
just kind of
times.
like, oh. So anyway, he just stood there with his hand out, and he goes, "I don't know what to do." I'm going, "Pull it away." He goes, "Can I do that?" I said, "Promise, your hand will not will
You
not
won't
fall off.
become a zombie.
Yeah, you can take your hand away. And he goes like this and looks at it, makes sure all of his fingers are there. And I'm just sitting there going, this is the most dramatic thing I've ever seen. But he looked at me and he kind of didn't know whether to say, okay, I believe it, or, like, or like, blah, blah, blah. It's just, I really was,
It's
he was smirking
disbelief,
at me, but like,
especially when you're so staunch about
yeah,
not believing
he
and
was
you
scowling.
cannot explain it. Like your
Yeah.
hand is out there, you're feeling this. There's no
Yes.
other way to explain it. We had an experience like that in my previously haunted home. So
Yeah.
my eldest son had two guys over. The one guy really believed in this kind of stuff, was very open and very spiritually minded for young teens. They were like
Yeah.
like 14, 15. But the one guy, he had nothing to do with it. He didn't believe in it. He could
Yeah.
care less. So I remember the boys were at the front door, my son and the believer, but the non-believer was back further into the living room. And
Yeah.
all of a sudden he screamed, and we turned around and his face was white as a sheet. And I said, what
That's
happened?
awkward.
He goes,
Yeah.
like this, mouth open. He goes, I thought it was the dog, because he loved our German Shepherd. He goes, I just looked and there was no dog. He goes, something, swear to God, just grabbed my ankle and yanked it. And that kid never came back to our house again. But I bet you he was a believer after that.
Yeah. I always say I love it when it happens to somebody who's so against it being a thing. This guy walked around very sheepish after that, and his wife just says, "Thank you, thank you."
Yes,
She goes,
finally.
all I did the
Fill
whole
the
way here, exactly. All I heard the whole way here was I was a waste of time, but I'm glad I'm being amused. And I'm just like going, oh my God. But I love when people get experiences, and I mean, it seems to be the time of the year that, is it because you think the veil is thinner, as they say, or do you think it's because people are just more open to accepting that things happen this time of year?
I think it's a little of both, because I got this from Spirit years ago and I believe it. And it is what you perceive becomes what you believe, and it becomes your reality,
Uh-oh.
meaning it's all around you. Like
Yeah.
I've met a few people that say they hate Halloween, and it's like blasphemy.
I
Like, how
know.
could you say that? But
Yeah.
it's everywhere. It's surrounded all around you. Yet you go to different parts of the world and they're not
Mhm.
big on Halloween. And then they see what we do in many countries where Halloween is a big thing, especially in North America. But I know parts of South America and across the pond are too. And so it's around you. Plus, I think it's almost like it gives you permission, if you will, to be
Mhm.
able to talk openly about these things, even if you kind of believe, but you don't want people to know. You could go on a ghost tour or ghost hunt.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's a little bit of both. And I think the veil does get thin. We've been told this, but I think it remains thin. Actually, Kerrilynn and I was on Spirit Switchboard. I'm going to throw her out there. We know we love her, and she has spirit.
Yeah.
She has Beneath the Hollow Moon with me.
Yeah.
She said she feels like it's even open and thinning right up until into January, and I do too. But it's not notorious for those months.
Well, I have to say, in doing a lot of research on just Halloween in general and its origins and getting into Samhain and things like that, it was believed that some of the most haunted times of the year were actually towards the middle of end of December.
Yes.
Right? So that would make sense if we factor that in, that it's not necessarily here. So maybe we just start, around this time and just go full on. I truly think, just through researching years, that, winter months when it's cold and dry has a way of making it easier for things to move around. I've often heard researchers say, in the summertime, they probably get weighed down the same as we do because their energy. Whereas in the winter, when it's dry, it's staticky, which
Yeah,
is why when you turn on your central air and it gets staticky in the space, people would say, I haven't had any issues. And, I'm just like, first time I really got working with it, I just said, well, do you have the air on perchance? Because I was getting zapped all over the place that bloody summer, which is ecstatic. And she
I
said,
think maybe
yeah,
it's a collection of fear too. And what I mean by
yeah,
that is, say you are living in a house that has some activity. In the summertime, especially if you live in North America, most places you're outside enjoying the weather. It's a
yeah,
different kind, like you said, but once you come inside, everybody's inside. Like, for example, I knew this for a fact. School started and I said, watch, everybody's going to get sick now because the kiddies, the little ones, go to school, don't
yeah.
necessarily wash their hands, bring it home, parents go to work, and then it spreads like the plague, if you will, right? So
Yeah,
it
yeah,
does.
it's true.
But the thing
Yeah,
is,
the little petri
inside,
dishes are running around.
I don't know what my cord came undone there for a sec. The other thing is, I think that where I'm going with this is if you got an active house and you're all inside, it gets darker sooner and you start maybe hearing a few creepy noises. Like what I'm saying is basically the emotion of fear, if you will. Because a lot of
Mhm.
people get really creeped out and a little afraid, especially if it's in your own house, right? That's another theory
That's
for me.
supposed to be your safe place, right? Is
Yes.
your house, and things happen. It gets kind of wiggy. We're talking about the cat. Yeah, he's dramatic. I know. I know. Uh, but yeah, no, I completely agree with you. Mindset, it's part of something that I've always done working with people. It's just been working on mindset because it changes
Mhm.
everything. It really does. Empower yourself,
It
believe in
does.
it, and just take control. It really, it really makes a really big difference.
Plus, I'm sure you've run into this, right? And you see many cases like this where first, if you say you moved into a new home, you've got kids, the younger usually more, but even kids, and they start experiencing activity. And I've seen this where they'll tell the parents this is going on, and the parents, oh, don't be ridiculous. Ghosts aren't real. There's no such thing as monsters. And then all
Yeah.
of a sudden, then maybe the wife experiences it, but the husband doesn't. And it could be spouses. I'll say spouses.
Yeah.
One spouse does and
Yeah.
then not the other. And the other
Mhm.
one is a believer. And then it creates a real division. It really magnifies the fears. Plus, you feel like you're not being heard and believed, right? So it
Mm.
creates more lower vibrational emotions. And then eventually, once the partner catches on, then that also adds to it. So I think that could also add to it as well. That's what I've seen, anyways. Have you seen some
Mm.
of that?
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, yeah. Hello, Rhonda. Absolutely. I always look at the divide and conquer thing as well.
Mhm.
Where it's one person in the household being isolated, right?
Yes. Mhm.
Because hi,
Hey,
Cindy.
Cindy. Mhm.
Just isolating certain people, whether it be children, whether it would be just one
Yeah.
person in the house. Um, and then that's where things get really crazy.
Yeah, because nobody
Usually,
believes you if they're not
exactly.
experiencing it, right? And I
Yeah,
agree
divide and conquer.
100%. Mhm.
Yes, exactly. So, there's so many different scenarios as far as that goes. I mean, I've seen multiple scenarios over, a couple of decades. And I mean, and you're never invincible. People who work in these situations take great risks because I'll tell you, like, I've had things follow me home
Oh, yeah.
and cause a little bit of havoc, cause a lot of havoc, and it's something people say, what do you do to protect yourself? So it's not as easy as you think. If somebody's got a bullseye or somebody's got a bullseye on your back, you can go through the whole process. I've gotten much, much better at it as time went
Mhm.
on. But I'll tell you something, if you go in there feeling a little bit cocky, you're going to get spanked and you're going to never forget it because
Well, plus like you said just a few minutes ago, your home is your sanctuary, right?
yes,
And so
yes,
it's not the same as, and I had this conversation with someone over the last day, that it's like when you're living in it
yeah,
versus something you do for work, there's an entirely different scenario there,
yeah,
right? So
yes.
definitely, I've seen that happen. What we went through, I'm still not sure where that started. Because it was my ex-husband's home. As far as I know, there was no paranormal activity. But I worked in a part of the city. I was a visiting nurse in Canada. It's called the Victorian Order of Nurses. And this part of the city I had was the most dangerous, had a lot of horrible things and crime and we'll say, illicit substances and things like that. But people also chose to leave this planet, if you will, and pass on to wherever they were going. And if they had an attachment or something, I don't know if something followed me when I went home, but most of us have had the weird and the strange around us since we've been little, myself included too. So where does it come from? They look for the weak link, right? Or like you said, divide and conquer. I like that.
The weak link, yes, for sure. I mean, that's the easiest way to do it, you know. Hello. But also, I think if you put yourself, you know, like I say, wrong place, wrong time. Like you work, let's say, in a facility, in a hospital, you're going to have all kinds of things coming through. And I go back to a story a young man told me where he was in a hospital one time. And he said, I was about 18 at the time. And there was this little boy there who was probably like 7 or 8, taking a guess. And he goes, and I saw this black shadow thing come up the wall, go up along the ceiling. It was going down towards this child. And he said, come to me instead. Leave the child alone. He goes, and you saw it back. Like that's to show you how they listen. And you know, he didn't say it out loud. He spoke it telepathically. The thing went right back up over and came right towards him. He goes, I felt it hit me. And this young man ended up, you know, being diagnosed with schizophrenia at that point. He goes, I never had that before. I go, maybe not have been. I said, but if the medication works. Yeah, see?
Well, I said, I've asked myself many times. Now I'm not allowed to diagnose, but I have seen people who have been diagnosed where I've seriously questioned, are they actually seeing and hearing something that somebody else isn't? And they've been medicated because the so-called quote unquote hallucinations and what they're hearing and seeing is so bad. But it seems like they're very mentally sound, except for what they're experiencing and the fear it elicits.
It's like a double-edged sword. It's like what came first, you know, because sometimes if you have any sort of a disability or problem, and like schizophrenia is a big one, psychosis, like those are big ones, because if the medication doesn't work, then you have to think it's something else. But if you're on the medication, does it attract something else? Because they tend to amp up the weaknesses. That's what they try to prey on, you know, because it incapacitates you, which is the idea. Like whenever I would work with families, depending on if for example, they said, no, I'm Catholic. I'm like, wow, you know, that's really hard to you know, to bring in the church. You might get a blessing out of them. I said, but if that's the case, you know, this is a process we have to go through specifically. And I would request not 1, but 2 psychological assessments. And I would need written permission from the doctor to work with them. And 9 times out of 10 is like, just don't go off the meds. I don't care what you do, you know? And I was like, well, that's not what I meant to say.
That. Yeah,
exactly. But if the meds don't work, that's where that's a bit of a key, is to saying, okay, something is definitely not right as far as that goes. But I mean, Laura, if you see something in there, just put it up, right? You know, like I'm not worried about that.
Because what I was going to add to that is, is I've run into certain paranormal investigators over the year that are going, I've never had an experience I want one. I remember with the really powerful entity we had at our home, and this person meant well, but they'd never been touched. They'd never had an experience. And they said, you just send that right over to me. I'll kick it in the butt. And I said to them very seriously, I can see that you have a good heart, but you have no idea what you are dealing with. Something that's older than time. Something that will never be truthful with you. Never mind. It does not go after things that you control. Like you'll see parents say, oh my God, why is it harassing my child? It needs to come after me. And of course, that's a normal parental instinct. But
it is, but they can go after more than one person at a time.
But what I was going to add, that just amps it up usually with the child because they know how badly it affects you. It goes after your finances. It goes after your health. And this person ended up developing a very serious health issue not too far long after that. Could it have happened? Yes, but they were pretty healthy before. But, you know, they kept asking for it. I want some kind of a physical experience. Well, you have to, I always say a little bit of knowledge is dangerous, and you have to be careful what you ask for when you are dealing with things like this.
It's true. It's true. I mean, I always say acknowledgement is empowerment, and that's not in a good way when it comes to these things. If you acknowledge, if you pose an invitation,
Yep.
that makes it they're a little bit harder to get rid of at that point, because I've had some say, I was invited. Now, this is why they go after children, because
We're
children
canceling your invite.
exactly. Well, and it usually has to come from the person who made the invite to make it a little bit more viable. And what do you do when that's a child and you don't want to scare a child? I had a situation, I was dealing with a 4-year-old boy who had an imaginary friend who got an invite, and he was tricked into making an invite.
How
And
evil is that? An
that's the
innocent,
idea.
almost a
Yeah.
baby.
That's infiltration, right? So I came in and I said, okay, and mother had explained what had happened and who it started with. I mean, there was the baby at the time being thrown out of the crib. There was a 3-year-old at the time being again thrown. Like it was really aggressive. So I came in, and and the little guy sat with me, and he goes, "Oh, it's my friend. And sometimes he's a dinosaur, sometimes he's a snake, sometimes he's this, he's that." And I thought to myself, I don't want to scare this kid. So the mom was with me. We became friends after that, because some of these things last months.
Yes,
In
it's
this
not like
case,
the movies.
no, this one here was close to a year actually, and we'll talk about it. Had a deliverance, and we'll talk about that too in a bit. But I just looked at him and I said, "Did you ask your mommy if your friend could come over?" And he looked at me and goes, "No." I said, "Did he ask his mommy? Because I'm pretty sure she's worried about him. He needs to go home." Little boy looked at me, goes, "You better get out of here and go home and see your mom." Blah, blah, blah. I says, "Don't you ever invite anybody else here until you talk to your mom." She
That
goes,
was a beautiful way to handle it.
that's all I had. Realistically, I'm often said I'm guided into what I'm supposed to do or say, and I had to do it. So it did not scare him. He
Because
had
it
the
would have made it
logic.
more vulnerable with what was there, right? They feed
Yeah.
off that kind of stuff.
Yeah. It's true. It's all you can do. It's just don't cause fear, but make the child stand his
You
ground.
empowered him by
That's right.
saying what you said. You empowered
Yeah.
him by just the response he gave. That was so incredible. Hi, Annette.
Oh, he was so firm about it
Congratulations.
too. Yeah, and
Congratulations.
he's like, don't you come back here. I'm like, "Ah, the kid. There you go. That's exactly what we want." But
Yeah.
I'll tell you, things settled down a bit, because it was easier at that point to deal with it, because the attachment was no longer settled around the child. I mean, I got a call one night, and she was just, had just basically, she goes, "Can you come over? I have to call the ambulance." And she was on, yeah, because he wasn't waking up.
Oh,
So,
no.
and I said, okay. So I went over, and I put my hands on him. I'm just like, okay. And all of a sudden he opened his eyes, and he'd been like this, like he was asleep. She said, so I just came in and checked on him, and I realized like he hadn't moved, and I'm talking
Oh,
to him.
no.
I felt within me, I felt a concern. So I put my hands on him, and I came down, and I said, "It's time for you to wake up." And his eyes opened. He looked at me and he goes, "Michelle, what are you doing here?" I said, "I just had to stop by and get a big hug from my favorite guy." And he gave me this big hug. And then in my mind, I'm like, "You better beat it. I swear to God." I've just about had it with you.
Kids, kids.
Yeah.
You know what? I worked in the NICU when I wasn't a mom. And there are
Yeah.
many days I almost went home crying myself. But now that I'm a mom, I could not do it. I swear to God, and I've tried to explain this to people, I can't stand to hear a baby cry. Not my
It's
ears.
true.
It rips my soul. It really, really does. Like both my boys as babies, and they weren't spoiled rotten or anything, but I rocked them to sleep every night, or I read to them, because to hear them cry, like I can't explain it. So when you said that about this little one, it just tears me apart, because kids are so innocent.
And vulnerable. They're
Mhm.
so vulnerable. And it's the curiosity also that brings it,
But
I
that's
think,
how
is
a lot of these
attracting.
things get in. How many
Yeah.
cases have you seen where somebody has suffered a profound loss, very unexpected especially, and they get curious because they just want to hear their voice one more time, and so they use whatever tool, because I'm not going to just say it's the dreaded Ouija board, That is a tool. There's
It's a
many
tool. It's all about intention, right?
and then they get the responses that they think that it's their loved one, and they get sucked in, right? Because they use vulnerabilities, and especially with children, like you said, the way the little one described what the friend looked like, it wasn't something with big horns and a monstrous looking face. It was something the child would accept, right?
A dinosaur, a serpent. Little boys they don't care about little snakes and things like that. But it's just, you know what? I think
Michelle is
thank you. Jeez.
Wayne wants us to know he knows a lot of tools.
I know a lot of tools. Yes, he does.
Yes, he does.
Oh man. But I think that is the way. And I've seen it happen many times. I've worked with kids and 10 years later, they're teenagers still suffering from it because the family did not want to put in the work. When we help people, we're only half the equation. The other half is the family, changing that mindset. They say you're not the victim. You are a warrior. This is your house. You can do this. I've seen people do incredible things just by putting their foot down, saying, I've had it. And I said, you lean on your faith or you just lean on your strength. Wherever you can bring that in. That's what you do. Sometimes though, it's just, it's a matter of where, wrong place, wrong time.
Yeah.
I go back to when we were at the Hoyabatsu forest, the haunted forest in Romania. There was a whole series of things that happened in that time. But I'll tell you something, the girls, we were all followed back. We were all there together, rather. We were followed back to the hotel, had a whole pile of experiences happen. But the girls, had issues for 2 years after that. That's freaking staying power. It followed. There's a long reach.
Yeah, because there's no time on the other side. That's the problem. And I do believe that once something that comes from lower, if you want to call it astral realms, whatever you want to call it, I don't think they forget who you are, because I think spirits too, and I've seen many people where you'll get a spirit that doesn't know, say it's passed away, or even a human that's passed quickly and tragically doesn't know they passed away, and then they find someone that can hear them or see them, right? It's almost like they get drawn to certain energy and light too, especially when it's icky and it does not forget you. I'm sorry, but I don't believe it does ever.
I don't either. And I remember doing a show. It was like 4 hours long. It was a long show, and it was a great show. And I had access like this. I could see the chat room.
Yeah.
And the host said, "Do you think these things know who you are?" And I'm like, no.
Yes.
I know, right? But for me, I'm just little old humble me going, no. I said, I'm just a little dot of sand on a very big beach, I'm not that special. But when you're clearing things, I thought to myself, I said, yeah, I know they know, because like I said, every now and then you get a spanking going, oh, you want to rear your head here. They let you know they're well aware. And there was a medium that I'd noticed was in the chat, and it was commenting on a lot of things and having discussions with people, much like our folks do here. And she goes, oh, they know very well who she is. I was just like, that would hurt.
They do, though.
It's very firm sounding.
It's true, though. I believe that. And I haven't had the experiences here that I did in my previous home, but we still get a few things popping in or passerbys or whatever you do, right? And I don't think they forget you. I just really, really feel that. A couple of people in the chat I'm seeing are saying the same thing. They know who you are. They know when you're coming. Michelle, they do.
Oh, they do.
You dealt with them, and they, as much as we may not want to believe it, I don't think they have the power of an angel or God or your belief system or whatever, but they got enough within the realm of whatever you want to call it in communication. They know you're coming before probably you do.
Oh, exactly. You just have to make sure you got enough of the right team, right side of the fence with you. I worked a really aggressive. I hate the word case. I don't like that. But it was a very aggressive.
What else do you call it, right? Like it is.
It's pretty much, I was asked to take care of it. I was like, okay, for other researchers.
A case makes it unique because it's not like it's an everyday thing. It's very unique.
It wasn't. Definitely wasn't. I was asked to do it, from another researcher who was out of district, out
Right.
of the area. I said, "Yeah, okay, I'll do it. I'll do it for you, right? Just do it with
You
your
have
friends."
something.
And oh man, did I just get beat up with that one? I'll tell you what. But uh, out of everything that happened, this thing visited my house. This thing caused some aggravation. This thing would come knocking and it would just growl, and I'd be like, yada yada, grab my purse. I'll see you in an hour, and I'd be gone. I was a little cocky, but it's not that you don't fear these things, but you just don't show it either. You just have to hold your ground. It was my grandfather that taught me that at a very young age,
Yeah.
because he was a seer as well, right? So anyway, one night the mother calls me, and she had a 5-year-old and an 18-year-old, and she said, "My son, blah, has been down for probably about 15 hours.
Oh, wow.
He's been asleep." And she goes, and again, she goes, "I'm getting ready." She goes, "I just came in and realized, I asked him if he wanted to get up and sleep." It was just like, blah, blah, blah. He goes, as a teenager, just backed off and didn't think much of it. And then a few more hours went by. She goes, "I'm very concerned right now. I'm going to end up, again, calling an ambulance because now he's not responding to me." I said, "Yeah, so maybe you should do that." So I'm on my way. So I went in, and in my mind, I said, Wayne came with me, and I said, "I'm going to be there in about a half an hour. I swear to God, that kid better answer the door." That's all I said. And I said to Wayne, says, "Stop here. We're picking up a pizza to go." Picked it up on the way. We got there, and I knocked at the door. That kid was barely standing. He was just like this. And he goes, "Hey, Michelle." He goes, "Why are you here?" I said, "I brought you pizza." He goes, "Cool." But he goes, I don't know. He goes, "I'm feeling." So he sat, he ate, and then he goes, "I don't know what that was. I don't feel like myself," and blah, blah, blah. He goes, I said, "Are you okay? Because your mom wants to call." She didn't drive. She wants to call an ambulance so we can take you to the hospital. He goes, "No." Because I'm okay. Because I couldn't wake up. Because I barely remember talking to me. This is like, they can do that. How many stories have you heard, Lorilei, where one family member are being attacked by something while their spouse is asleep beside them? Sound sleep,
God.
right?
Oh,
Never
God. And you
wakes up.
can't move, I've heard, and they
Yeah,
can't
paralysis
scream.
and no. And the thing is like, the woman's sitting there going, "Come on," and the guy's like, "I had no idea she was even in distress. I couldn't wake up. I was in the soundest sleep
Yeah.
ever."
Yeah. No, I agree with that. I didn't have the knowledge base that I do now. And there was one person that I dealt with that I have one of the kindest people you'd ever meet. Loved animals, was a single mom, loved her kids. The stuff I saw on real video blew my mind, but she'd become very, very exhausted. She had an aunt that was kind of like her mom, and she was dying, and she wasn't sleeping. She's working full time. This woman went to the point that she could not even say the word angel, God, Jesus, anything, cross, anything. And one night it was really bad. Her kid called me. It was when I was in the old house. Now, he was an adult, like 18 or 19. I saw, when I looked into this woman's eyes, I saw her levitate on the camera. I remember the kid is going, he called me because he goes, "I don't know what to do." And I watched her with one look, and I never want to look into the eyes of a human being with that kind. I can't describe what I saw. I know, but it was just so evil. And I watched her, no word of a lie, just look at her kid. And her kid was on the ground screaming, rolling around the floor in agony. Same thing with her pets. Didn't know you at the time. So it was 3:00 in the morning. I'm thinking, who do I know that could be up? Who could, because this wasn't even the same country. And I called someone, and I'll be very honest, they weren't any help. They did witness what I saw. They did not witness the levitation. But as I was telling him, and it was a 3-way call, it wasn't even her voice. And as I'm telling him about the levitation, I heard negative, and just like it, and the whole way they spoke wasn't even them. Then I hung up the phone, and I'm thinking, oh my God, I feel so awful about this. Like, this kid's at this home with them, the animals, I didn't know what to do. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to say a prayer in my head. and again, hand to God, guys, listen to this. I start thinking the Our Father. I get a message on Facebook Messenger as I'm doing it, say, cut that effing, you know what, out.
Right?
And I'm like, how would it even know? And then a
Mhm.
half hour later, it said, it's time. I was PO'd by then. I go, for what? I didn't hear anything else. I don't think I'm getting goosebumps as I'm telling you. I don't think this person has had this dealt with. I believe their child has been a victim of this as well, was
Mhm.
hospitalized in a psychiatric hospital. It took 6 firemen to hold the child down at the age of 11. And the nurse even said to this person, I believe your son really believes what they are seeing and what they are hearing.
Mhm.
I don't know if it's a family curse. I don't know what it is, but I'm telling you, I have seen it, and
Mhm.
it's no joke. Mm-mm.
It's not. Anybody, I've had a lot of researchers say, not a lot, I would say it's probably like a 50-50 thing where they go, well, we don't believe, in demons, and so
Mhm.
we don't have to believe in them. They believe in you. I mean, it's
Try
okay.
smelling a group of them.
Oh, for sure.
I
But
have.
you know what? Having an experience with some ETs, they have the same smell, that
The only way I
sulfur
can
smell and
describe
stuff like it's
what this smelled like, I swear to God, and it was like a column in my old house from the basement straight up
mhm,
to the main floor and up into the attic. I talked to so many people when I'd find someone
yeah,
be able to help at the time, and I wasn't doing what I'm doing now,
yeah,
and something would happen. There'd be a death in
yeah,
the family.
yeah.
They'd get another opportunity, whatever. We could not get help no matter what we tried. That was my reason for actually sharing our story at the time
Yeah,
years ago on Paranormal Survivor.
yeah.
And like I said, crazy. Oh, the smell. So you'd be sitting there, nothing at all. And all of a sudden, big dogs, German Shepherd, I have one, it would smell like a pack of 1,000 German Shepherds just took the biggest dump right in front of you.
Oh,
Out of
yeah.
nowhere, like you're
There
getting.
it's rancid. It
And
is.
then
Yeah,
as quickly as it came,
it's
it's
gone.
gone. Hmm.
Yeah. There are so many, telltale signs for sure. And these things are like, don't get me wrong, I'm all for psychokinesis, telekinesis. Like I'm completely about it. I'm well aware of it.
Hmm.
People projecting energy and such. And but it's not always that. Possession, so it is, it's rare. But attachments, infestation, not
Yeah.
so much.
I
Not so
think this
much
was an
rare.
infestation at our house because I can
Yeah.
tell you this
Yeah.
was not telekinesis. I call it a curio cabinet. It
Yeah.
was out for people, metric. I'm not even going to try. I learned imperial way back in the day. That's how old I am.
Yeah.
It was a cabinet about 3 feet by 3.5 feet. It hung our kitchen. It was like a U shape, kind of open concept. It was
Mhm.
kitchen, dining room, living room.
Yeah.
We heard this massive crash. We came running upstairs. It's like 11 o'clock at night. And we were just having little things happening. Like your keys always where they are. You're just going out, bend down to put your shoes on, stand up. Keys are gone. You think you're
Uh-huh.
crazy. So you go back to get the mail about an hour later. There's your keys sitting there, exactly where they should have been.
Isn't that great?
But the
Mhm.
curio cabinet was it for me. We came
Yeah.
upstairs to this massive crash and we noticed this little curio cabinet, and I have pictures of it, all smashed, the glass in the front. The hooks were still in the back of the cabinet in the living room. So it looked like it had thrown maybe about 12 feet.
Mhm.
But when we looked at where it hung, and these hooks were solid, you could tell with what force it came off the wall. The hook is bent down on the one side, matching on the back of the cabinet. It must have hit the wall if we're facing it to the left about 3 feet, 3, 4 feet, hit the
Mhm.
wall, went down, somehow sliced my phone, like your cordless phone, your answering machine, and the caller ID at the time. It looked like a scalpel had been used and ended
Mhm.
up in the living room. So it had flown at least 15 to 17 feet with that
Mhm.
kind of force.
Mhm. I'm not surprised. Again, telltale sign of just things, moving around. They have a way of letting you know because you start to make you feel like you're going crazy. And the reason for
Oh
that,
yeah.
of course, is for obvious reasons, right?
Hmm.
Question everything because then it's easier for them to, you know, um, manipulate the situation, the environment, right? Get people fighting, right? Because meanwhile, you're looking at the other half going, where's the key? Where did you put the keys? I
Yeah,
put them right here. I know. I mean, he's like, I didn't touch the keys. Well, we're the only two in the
exactly.
house. I know damn straight it wasn't me, right? So now there's a bit of this going on. And
Hmm.
then you end up having more and more and more conflict,
That's exactly what happened. Hmm.
and every time a party comes in, it gets worse. Like with researchers, I've had even psychic mediums come in because I'm the
Right.
one everybody tells everything to. So I can't
Hmm.
go in there and say, well, this is what I'm picking up. And because I already know everything. It's not that I
Hmm.
don't pick it up, but I want somebody else to come in who knows nothing or knows very little and say, bam, 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 bam. And that's that. And I'll tell you something, like I've had them go home. I had one guy, he was coming in, his car was run off the road on his way into a place.
Oh my
And
God.
that thing still ended up getting like following him home after that. It was insane, and then you get into other situations. One time we brought in, um, like a priest,
Hmm.
and he goes, okay, well, I'm gonna start blessing and doing like a mini version of a deliverance or exorcism, not Roman Catholic,
Hmm.
right? But I'll tell you something, like we're doing voice recordings and I'm sitting there, I've got headphones on, and he's reciting, a prayer which involved the Virgin Mary. And right through my earphones was unholy WHORE. And I turned around and I said to the guy, says, I think you're an unholy blah blah blah. Because I'm trying to keep things really light. He
Yeah.
said, good. And he kept going. Hardcore.
So
He's
you had that
blessing.
kind of sense of humor.
Oh,
That's
he's blessing his heart out and just going to town. And it's almost what in some cases you have to do, because if you don't, and it finds that way in. I've worked with people who have deliberately and like without thinking put a bullseye on their back because of how they go in there with such fear, and like you can feel it, but just try not to show it. Just try to hold your ground because you're taking the weight for this family. You can't
and
become
plus, I had this conversation today that I
okay,
truly
good.
believe that with
Yeah.
somebody else today, that it's about ideal place to be in balance, but whatever you have one of, you're going to have the other on this planet.
Mhm.
And the ladies I get together with, and we we work with spirit and they tell us things, and it's nothing negative, but my whole point is some of the stuff that we look into, it doesn't have to do with demons or anything, but it's people that are not
Mhm.
good people, if you know what I
Mhm.
mean.
Yeah.
And so I was talking to them about that today, that we have to be aware of that. And then I could tell one of them was getting a little bit nervous. And I
Mm.
said, listen, you know what? I truly believe that each and every one of us is blessed with the power to have dominion that has been given to us by whatever you believe your creator is.
Mhm.
I used to say a long time ago, there's a fine line between fear and standing in that dominion. But wait, that's called faith, right? And
Mhm.
standing in it, not being a jack, you know what,
Yeah, yeah.
but standing like you would most assertively in
Mhm.
any way you need to, without anger, because you're not going to feed it, but letting it know. Because in a lot, oftentimes I will say with people I work with this, if this was a human being, would you tolerate this? Absolutely not. So you're going to use that
Mhm.
kind of energy, and away you go, knowing you have a team behind you, I believe, and you have your whatever your belief is behind you. And I think that we have the power and the dominion,
Mhm.
not arrogantly, but assertively, to be able to stand in that power.
Mhm.
Hmm.
I agree. But
Hmm.
we're going to get to some questions and comments. I'll start from the bottom
Got
up. You can let me know what you think about this. I would have to disagree because more people than ever are pushing on the paranormal door, yet we still only have hundreds of people that could be affected with over 8 billion. Well, I know what my reply is to that, and
Go
Lorilei, you
for it.
can
Mhm.
you can chime in. Um, I believe people are affected every single day
I agree.
by different ethereal beings and entities, and they don't even realize it. I
Mhm.
think there are people who walk around with attachments and don't realize it.
I
Having
agree.
an attachment and being possessed are two entirely
Yeah.
different situations, as many researchers know. Things come in, their whole lives are affected. And
Plus, it can go dormant, I believe, with some people too. And then
for
it rears
sure.
its head again, thinking everything's gone away. I've seen that, especially with attachments. I've
Mm-hmm.
seen a lot. Mm-hmm.
Oh, 100%. How many people have you talked to? And I know
Mm-hmm.
with myself, people who've come to me in their adult life
Mm-hmm.
saying, and I say, they'll say all the stuff's going on. I say, okay, where have you been lately? Okay, that doesn't chime out. I says, okay, has anybody come here lately out of the norm? That blah, 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 blah. Okay, no,
Have you
that
gone
checks out.
antique?
Well, no, you know what it is? Well, when I was like 15, I played with the board with a bunch of friends and we just brought something in. Things were
Almost a
happening
hundred
back then.
percent, right? Almost
Well,
100.
it's I know, but it's the tool. But again, it's the intention. You made an invitation, and it doesn't always work. But I'll tell you something. There's usually something waiting, and they will wait. Time is completely
Mhm.
irrelevant. There is no time, and they will wait it out until the right moment, and bam. And maybe they've
Just
just
what
been in
I
the
talked
background the
about.
whole time.
Yeah, just about that. What the woman that I had seen and witnessed what I had. I
Yeah,
never saw any of this until she
yeah,
was at one of the most stressful points in her life
yeah,
and no sleep and exhausted. And I mean, she wasn't my best friend, but I certainly would known her from another paranormal show years ago.
yeah.
I chatted with her from time to time off and on. I'd never seen any of this until she
Mm,
was at her lowest point physically, emotionally, psychologically, and then it just hit her full force.
yeah.
Mhm,
See,
mhm.
and sometimes it does happen that way. Sometimes people, depends what you have going on in your lives. It depends on everything. I believe, that people are affected every single day. Just because we don't hear about it, it
Yep.
doesn't mean. When I speak of things, I can speak about my experiences. I have worked with I'm hundreds of people from around the world. I go based on my experiences. I can't speak for all these other researchers, but I could tell you I'm affiliated and I know researchers from all over the world and have worked with many. And they seem to feel exactly the same, which
Mhm.
takes us to the next question. Um, Contessa, I thought possession was happening a lot more these days because I had read that the Vatican had 300 new exorcists. Oh, for sure.
For sure. But
Yeah.
there's another thing I was going to mention. I don't know if it'll go hand in hand with this, but when we're talking about young people,
Hmm.
and we hear that there are a lot more in the last 10 years. I think I said that at the beginning of the show.
Hmm.
But also where I'm worried, and I was very concerned when my son was alive, the one with autism, because he could read and
Hmm.
write, and he loved video games. That's what he played. And I started noticing a lot of the games, even though age appropriate, there is a lot of sigils and a lot of Latin and a lot of foreign languages in there and text
Hmm.
that even if somebody puts a subtitle on, it's the subconscious that I was worried about. And how many children are say, picking that up? So
Hmm.
again, even though they're advertising that there's more exorcisms,
Hmm.
is there really? What are your thoughts? Do you think there really is, or
I think that you have
are we more
people.
aware?
Yeah, yeah. Again, you have people all over the world, and the Vatican is catering to the world. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, they've got it down pretty good. Let me tell you. I mean, I can go through some notes that I have, this through research that I've done over the years, but they've got it together. And they have a large flock, shall we say? So
Mm-hmm.
I think, but I also know with great certainty that they only allow certain people to come in and to take their course. I
Sure.
can't remember, how many weeks it is, but you go in and they have a course, um, but they're catering to the world. But they still want psychiatric assessments or psychological assessments. They may be out there, they may be busy, I mean, if you think 300 internationally, I mean, that's really not going to do very much. When I say it's rare, a lot of people will tell you exorcisms are rare. But
Plus, there's different levels. I was doing some more research today from what I knew, and there's
yeah,
different levels. It's very rare to do a full, quote unquote, full,
mhm,
full exorcism, right? And that
yeah,
when I was looking into the training, it's more or less dealing with attachments or dealing with
exactly.
what's
Yeah,
much lighter than a
not
full.
actual exorcisms.
Mhm,
Yeah. But you know what though? But that's what they need. There are cultures and people and different religious denominations who do what are called deliverances. And I'll tell you something. I witnessed a deliverance, and I had never seen one before. And we waited about a
Oh, do
year.
tell, because I don't think I've seen one either.
Oh gosh. Well, this one was about the family, the little boy we spoke of.
Okay.
So I talked to a friend of mine who was a Christian minister out of North Carolina, and I said, you know, I was dealing with two religious backgrounds in the family, and nobody could really agree on what was going to be what. So I said, could you recommend something, because this needs to happen. So we waited a year because their deliverance team traveled the world doing deliverances. They were that good. So we thought it was worth the wait, and I was
Right.
able to just, you know, wait it out with them, and we did. And she came in, it was a husband and wife team that came out of their team, and she spoke in tongues. I had never heard that before. I was kind of like going, I'm a skeptical, but you know, but I'm logical too. So I'm just like, okay, I don't know enough about it. And I think it concerned me because you become very close to the people that you work with. But I also knew my Christian minister friend would not steer me wrong. So I relaxed, and they came in, and I'll tell you something, in 2 hours, they got both places cleared, never stepped foot in the second place. And they were clear for, I don't know, somewhere between a year or two. I think it was closer to almost 2 years. And all of a sudden, after 2 years, you know, this deliverance minister passed away. All of a sudden, I get a call to show you how aware somebody out there is. I get a call from her. She goes, I think you're supposed to come and have dinner with me. I said, okay, what happened? You know, this is almost like 2 years. And she says, I was sitting in bed late last night. I had the volume down on the TV. I was just watching the written news, and I had my earbuds in because all the kids were asleep. And all of a sudden, something growly came through and went, Michelle, just like that. I was like, oh, says, I'll pick something up. I'll see you tomorrow. And I came in, and I was just like, okay. I was able to clear the place because it had just stepped back
That's
in.
what I was going to say, because it hadn't got its, if you will, proverbial hooks in and really set roots.
We hone our knowledge and we hone our skills, right? But I can tell you the evidence I pulled out of there with phantom sounds and different things like that, the recordings in this tiny little townhouse, and it sounded like chains being dragged across the floor, growling, walking on hardwood floors, yet it was a basement, like residuals, but something picking up the recorders, and you feeling them playing with it, putting it down, sitting down like on a squeaky old chair or mattress. It was weird. I never would have expected it here. It caught me off guard completely. But the point I'm going is, like, something was obviously aware, like, oh, this woman's gone now. I'm going to try again. You know?
Absolutely. Like, even the, and again, I can just say from where we were with what we went through, we had 4 main entities. I am writing a book about this experience because there are so many things that happen that are unexplainable. But the one, I called her the female shapeshifter, and the boys' voices hadn't changed by that time. So you'd think they were calling you, yet you'd come upstairs and go, oh crap, they're at their dad's this weekend or whatever. But the other thing, this, whatever it was, would become my doppelganger, and showed up to numerous times and delivered, like, I've never hit anybody in my life ever. I just don't believe in violence. It's my thing, that unless you have to protect yourself or something, but and would always whack the person I was living with. And it happened 2 or 3 times. They would see me wearing the exact same clothes, exact same everything, hair, the whole bit, and wreaked quite a bit of havoc, had quite the filthy potty mouth. And the other one we had, so the black mist, there's another story I can tell you about that quickly. Our furnace always went at the coldest time of the year. I even had to replace the furnace. They couldn't figure out what was going on. It was within that active core within the house. And it went again, almost 50 below with wind chill. It was freezing. And so this young kid, well, I call him a kid, he was like 26, 27, and he comes to fix the furnace. And I knew it was really active in that part of the basement. So I said, I better sit down here with him And so I'm sitting there and I'm talking. I'm thinking, oh God, this kid probably thinks, what's this old cougar sitting down here trying to pick me up? But meanwhile, I'm thinking, dude, I don't want something to grab you. So I'm sitting there in a chair. I swear to God, in the dark corner, I could see this black mist forming. I have pictures of it, black mist forming. And I'm blinking, going, oh crap. So I surreptitiously pretend I'm playing with my phone. I'm taking pictures and I'm thinking, oh good God, don't let him catch me. Probably thinks I'm trying to film the plumber's crack as he's built it.
Oh God.
And just as quickly as it forms, and then it disappears. The other one, I never saw this. I think I have a picture of it. Super Mario. Did your kiddos ever play that game when it came out? Mario, the new one. It was in the 90s. But it's when it looks like a little Grim Reaper with a hood, and he's got a white mask on, almost like a Jason from the horror movies mask. And he's named the Shy Guy in the movie or in the game.
Yes.
That's what it looked like. And then we had a hat man. We had 4 main that we could see or that we knew what was there. But there was way more, some of the stuff that went on in that house, because we talked to so many people. It was me, because I wanted to know what the heck is this and why is it here?
Well, I think as well, it's usually more than one. You know,
that's what I was always told.
always more than one. And I want to address too, when Annette says possession cases have been rising for years and harder to resolve, but they wanted one exorcist per diocese, which means they still haven't met the goal. And I also want to recommend, like when we're talking about the Roman Catholic Church, okay, this is like what they're saying is, okay, you know, this is rare. And they require a lot of things because they're also very scientific. They want to know, are we dealing with schizophrenia? What are we dealing with? However, there are many people such as Father Sean, right? There are many different backgrounds, like religious backgrounds, and people of the old Catholic Church, for example, who will come forward. There's all kinds of people out there who have trained to do this, and they don't require everything to be as stringent. So how many are getting missed? Because again, if you're Roman Catholic, and if you're dealing, because the one case I had with the 18-year-old boy, she tried to get a priest from her church to come in, and he came in and things were flying off the top of the refrigerator. And he goes, I'll be back and we'll come and pray for you. Nobody ever showed back up. So it never got reported, you know?
Even
so
with
how,
us. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Michelle.
Yeah. I was saying, how many situations where there's this infestation going on, and that when they channel or they jump into, the kid's not waking up, that is a form of possession.
Yes.
Right. But they will tell you, and even the church will tell you, like true possession. Like if we're looking at the case of the Exorcist, the young man, to where the film The Exorcist was based on, people don't realize that went on. He wasn't possessed the whole time. That went on for something like 8 weeks, at least, every single day, certain amount of time every day. The rites of exorcism would be performed, and the rites of exorcism, that's the Holy Roman Catholic Church. That's their version.
Because I was always told we were all Roman Catholic in my home, and why didn't call a priest? Well, I had done enough research. I knew if I could even get someone to come and what was involved with it, would they even come? We tried. I can tell you, I had somebody come to my home for the first time, someone locally, and I hadn't met them. They were from a trusted friend recommended. She met me at the front door and said, I have been told to come with everything I have and to be prepared for the fight of my life. I wish to God I had filmed it. I swear to God to you. It was a beautiful day, 80 degrees outside, no clouds. That house, when this was going on outside, you could see the wind picking up, swinging outside. She was upstairs. My oldest son couldn't even sleep in his bedroom anymore. He had to sleep at the side of our bed. There was stuff in that room that was just used as a storage room. She went by my youngest son's room and she goes, oh, yeah, we're going to leave that to last. But I can tell you when she went in my youngest son's room, and I witnessed this, but that's when the wind really picked up and all this stuff was going on. She passed out. and landed on the floor, and there were tears coming down her eyes. Like, this was the real deal. This woman was not an actress. And I had quite a conversation with her before she came in. And it turned out her mom had just passed away a couple months before. She was very close to her. And I had actually worked with her mom. She was one of the secretaries. And I didn't know this when I connected with her. Like, it was crazy what went on there. So with that being said, what you shared, I had a really good question. Say, like, we never did get help. We ended up leaving that home, and we had some help after. But the thing is, what would you suggest to people who are in this scenario, because it happens, until help can come, besides teaching them about energy and raising the vibration? It's pretty hard to raise the energy and vibration when this family member is really being severely, no another word, but spiritually tortured. So what would you suggest till they could find help, Michelle, that they could do?
I've worked
We need
with
1,000 of you, but
there's a lot of better people out there than me, I'm sure. But I'm essentially I've at one time I used to have like roughly a year and a half waiting list. And because these situations take so long, because you really have to be thorough. I don't just want to go in there and like try to clear something, or because I mean there's a reason, we've worked with people who have had exorcisms and it didn't work over time. Like something you have to stay on, right? And a lot of that comes with education for people as well, because if you say, okay, this is gone now, and in your mind,
wrong one, I wanted another one. Sorry.
Yeah, and in your mind, you're saying, okay, I'm still terrified. It's like you're leaving your foot in the door. So for me, it's always, I worked with these people online. I worked with them over the phone, and we would work together and just sort of like mini education on how to take your space back. And I'll tell you something, when that time was up, because a lot of people didn't want me, I could refer people to other people. Some people said okay, but some people said no. By the time I messaged them, I said, okay, I can come in now. They're like, no, we're actually good. Like you worked with us and we applied it. I believe if the work is done, there are ways that you can I think lessen the blow, or completely you're starving them. They thrive on negative
That's
energy.
what happened with us.
Yeah.
Because it became a 20-hour-a-day job for me. Kid you not.
Yeah.
Researching, started locally, province-wise, continent-wide, and went around the world talking to people, learning, researching, trying to find out. And the biggest thing that helped me, I don't know if this will help anybody, was learning the principles of what energy is, and like attracts like energy. Because I used to get told all the time, you got to raise your vibration. I used to go, what the heck is that? So I wanted to know what it was. So when you raise it's inhospitable to what's in there. It stopped the physical attacks. It stopped a lot of what was going on when we were able to, bring more laughter into the home, bring some of the outside in, learning how to ground yourself. There were many, many things, but you had to learn it. So that's why I asked you, because you feel helpless and you feel alone when it happens, because you can't exactly go talk about it in line at the grocery store, right? You feel very isolated.
Yeah. Well, absolutely. And that's part of the problem. And I think a lot of it is education.
Yeah.
I find that sometimes you can lean on your faith. That's why I say, whatever it takes, just make sure that there is a strong intention and that you put a lot of power behind the words that you're using, and I'll tell you, I think I saw a good comment come up here. Contessa says, not all priests know how to handle it. And even if you reach the higher up, the situation has to fall into a certain criteria.
I agree.
And with the Catholics, it does. And that's the thing. I think a lot of going back to what Sparky said, I think there are a lot of people out there who are affected. Out of 8 billion people, when I say rare, I mean, what if it's only 2 billion that are affected? That's still rare on a grand scheme of 8 billion, for example. But the church and their criteria, how many get pushed aside because they don't meet the criteria?
I
Yeah,
agree.
and what
We would
and
have
what
been one of them. I knew that from
yeah,
reading the criteria, and we
yeah,
needed help. And
yeah,
so I just said, nope, that we're not living like this. Like people have been reading the comments, being choked. We were scratched. We were burnt. We were
yeah,
hit. We were thrown. I mean, there were so
yeah,
many things that happened in that home. But
yeah.
maybe call me stubborn, and it's like, no, this isn't going to keep happening. Knowledge, reach out to people like you or other people that know more about this, or really breaking it down to energy and understanding it. But it came from talking to other people who had
Mm-hmm.
this kind of knowledge that could share it. Because the
Mm-hmm.
other thing I'm going to add, when you try it on your own, because we've got to remember fear, anger,
Mm-hmm.
sadness, depression, all food to something like this. It's
Yes.
going to ramp up if you take this on your own, and be prepared for that. Stand in your faith, because it wants you to be afraid and not
Mm-hmm.
believe that you have that kind of a power. It's intelligent what you're dealing with, I think.
Oh, yeah, I can attest to that. Just
Mhm.
seeing how calculated some
Yes.
of what they're doing is. It is very, very calculated. Contessa says, I'm getting to everybody, I promise. Contessa says, you think evil entities pick their victims, or is it random? I think it's a bit of both, to be
Well,
honest.
think about hunting, and I'm not a hunter, but even if you look at an animal hunting, what's it going to go for? The strongest in the pack, or is it going to go for somebody that's maybe a little weaker, a little slower, a little bit
Mhm.
whatever? But sometimes it does go for the strongest in the pack.
Yeah, to take down the mother loaf first, and then yeah, it's true. It's true. Contessa, I need advice. I'd be interviewing a family minus the person in need. Young adult male may be possessed and death questioning planned when I finally meet the afflicted. Any clever approaches or questions? Depends on the age. Um, again, you don't like to instill fear. A lot of times it is the younger people in the house, the ones that are easy to scare. I had an 18-year-old look at me one time, and he was full on not there. And I
Oh,
looked at him, and he goes, he he was putting like a bangle bracelet on his arm, and and he never broke his stare with me, and it was too big for him. And he went, I just felt, I heard things cracking, and he popped it on, and he looked at me, and he smiled, and I was kind of like, huh. And then he basically
that's not your
kind of,
smile, by the way, right? Thinking.
no, it's like, so, but then he looked at me, and it's like he snapped out of it, and he goes, something was looking at you through my eyes.
Hmm. Hmm.
Well, thanks for
And you
that.
can't describe that look until you've seen it, and then you don't
And
ever
the
want to
dark
see it.
eyes, there's no color in the eyes. The face is
Oh,
just so, yeah. So, I mean, approaches and questions. Best thing to do is, you know, think about the age. Like I was interviewing a 4-year-old, and I mean, a little bit of a different situation than the teenager, because the young teen, who was a new teen, he basically, it's like he didn't really want to believe that
mhm.
anything was happening to him, and
Especially young teen, you're invincible at that age. I remember when I was, anything your parents told you was going to
yeah,
happen, it's like, no, it's not. You're being, you don't know what you're talking about, right?
yeah,
Because it's just a developmental stage you're at too.
it is. And sometimes, you're asking. Again, I have to say, I always feel comfortable in asking for some kind of a psychological assessment. I've worked with some um, really amazing psychologists over the years. And one thing that was a given, there were some who were 50-50, who believed that,
Mhm.
I know sometimes when the medication isn't working and I
Right.
try another medication, that I know there's something else there. So if you can find a psychologist who's very open-minded, it's a bit of a process, and a person wants help, then you should be able to speak with that person, and then just find out what the religious background is, find out if they're on any sort of medication. They've been through the psych ward, did not help. See, so you're then find out what the religious background is. If it's Roman Catholic, if this person's had the psych ward, they'll have some kind of literature, a file. And if it's not Roman Catholic, you might actually be able to get a deliverance person to come in and take care of it. You know, I know
Mhm.
sometimes it's something you have to keep at. It's not like just waving a magic wand a lot of times. I have worked with people. Again, one woman had a full on exorcism. She goes, I was one of the first in the country ever to get one of the first. She goes, and it never really worked. And she brought in another really famous team who came in and did their version, exorcism, and did not work. We went in, we did it remotely, and it worked, and it's clear to this day. And it's probably been about 6 years now.
Do you think it's because maybe you guys were remote? Is that maybe why? Or what do you think? Like, never mind, I know how good you and your team are, but there was something different. Or, there has to be a reason why it worked. Or maybe it was just the right combination to deal with what the person was experiencing.
I'm a really big believer in energy, and it's energy working on energy, it's a little bit easier. You go in
That's what I
certain
was
ways.
thinking versus
Yeah.
physically. I should have worded that better. You're right.
Yeah. No, but it's true. Sometimes I think you just need to know what the techniques are.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't know what the techniques are, you can RV somebody, or you can tap into a location. You can, if you don't know how to apply certain things, which you rely on from other ethereal beings for the most
Mm-hmm.
part, because they're seeing it, or you're RVing it. You're kind of going, okay. I've known a lot of RVs who've done incredible work. I've
Mm-hmm.
known a lot of people who've gone and says, I see this and this, but I don't know what to do with it. Then I can work with people and say, okay, then I can help you with the steps of how to apply it. You
But
be
you know
the
what you
eyes and
said was the
I'll do
operative?
it.
You know what you said was
Pardon?
a real operative thing that you just said, that there's no shame in somebody trying to help someone else. And if you're not
No.
effective or you're not quite sure, to
Hmm.
either ask for help or have somebody else come in,
Yeah.
right? Because you're here to help the person. It's not about ego, right?
Oh my God. It's so true. You can't have ego in this field. You can't. You can't, because you're going to get your rear end handed to you.
Yeah.
It's that simple. They know, you know. That's what I call the spanking. It's just like, it's just there's no place for it. There's no place for it. But I'll tell you, like even going back to ancient times, it was still a problem with mental health,
Oh,
and
absolutely.
and they would just put. I mean, and I'm just going to pop one off real quickly, where they were talking about possession in general, and it says it's often started except it says possessions were often accepted as normal. Just I thought, okay. And it
I'm
goes,
not
but
trying it.
I know. But on the flip side, it was also seen as abnormal. And they
Mhm.
thought possessed individuals were just distressed, dysfunctional, and had mental health issues, and were always dealt with from that standpoint. It really hasn't changed much. In some ancient civilizations like Egypt, China, Babylon, Greece, the beliefs were that those exhibiting symptoms of psychopathology were actually possessed by bad spirits, known as demonology. And the only way was to exorcise them. Like they're going back like hundreds of thousands of years. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, especially that there's a notation that it's gone back
Yeah.
that far. Now, the other thing I wanted to ask you, no, not necessarily going into a case that you're needed when it comes to possession, but when you have activity, another thing I really believe, and I don't deal with the cases that you deal with, obviously, but that's some of the questions besides medications, psychiatric issues, what have you. I will ask people if they have young children and or pets, because say they think they have paranormal activity. I'll ask them, what are you seeing with kiddos? What are you seeing with animals? Because I believe that they can see spirit. Now, have you noticed that as well, like with animals in a home? And I'm just asking out of curiosity because I've never asked you this.
I believe animals see everything. I've known, in my decades of doing this, I've known paranormal researchers who have specifically brought, dogs on investigations because the animals can see everything. I'll tell people, do you have a pet? Follow their lead,
Yes.
because they do. They get into the corner, and then the cat's tail goes up, they fluff up, and, they look behind you, or they start hissing, or they, I mean, Wayne's talked about many times having a cat that would do that. And I think they're little psychics for sure, much like children.
I have my cat, but my dog, even before, say, if I'm coming in the house, and it doesn't happen that often, but you do get passerbys every now and then. I know right away it's my dog, because my dog doesn't act the way she will when something's in here, and she doesn't use her nose. She's the shepherd, but when she starts tracking, and again, it's almost like an open concept circle, and she's tracking in the one time. And I remember talking to you about this, and it was behind one of the chairs I sit in our living room by the sliding glass door. She kept going in there, tracking around. She'd go around, keep going, and then pop out, and it's like, mom, come here, mom, come here, and kept showing me. And I took pictures. There was something there that you can't see it with your eyes, but you can see it on the camera. So your animals know, I think. And I think young children too. I really believe young children especially can see spirits.
I think so. Well, they're not, I say they're not, tainted by life, job, education, got to go to soccer, got to do homework. Like they're just, they're not there yet.
That's what makes me so sad about that 4-year-old. Oh, that poor baby.
It was really sad, but I'll tell you, that 4-year-old grew up to be an incredible young man, and he's a young adult now and has no recollection.
Oh, thank God.
Of what happened to him during that time. So it was really nice, because when we saw one another again, he remembered me, because I had stayed, in touch with the family for quite some time, and we just happened to reconnect again. And when I saw the family, the girls, and seeing this little baby being thrown out, and now they're young ladies and they're starting, their own lives, and it was always really, really just incredible. Those are the happy stories I like to see. And not everybody stays in touch, but when they do, it's nice. It's really nice.
One of my neighbors, very quickly, I didn't know that their niece had been a preemie that lives with them. And she's now, I'm getting old and moldy here, but she's now in her early 30s. And I just realized, I'm pretty sure she was one of my patients in the NICU. But where I'm going with this is, it's so beautiful when you get to see them as adults, right? Regardless of what our work is.
It's true. It's hard. Age sets in. It's just like, gosh darn it. But you know what? I find that those are the happy endings, because there are some that they don't always, attachments can stay forever. There's no timeline. Time is completely irrelevant.
And it manipulates your life, I believe.
Every aspect.
Like financially, relationships wise, health wise, like just some of the things you've talked about. If they hadn't been these moms that were very, very tuned into their children, recognizing like the teenager that was sleeping for 15 hours and then you brought the pizza, or the little one, right? Or they get people, you would not believe it, but what it is, right? I believe to keep you in that low vibrational and emotional state, which I think is like a smorgasbord for something like this. And so it's like your whole life just seems to go to crap, like everything you touch almost. And I've seen it with cases, and even in my previous home. I'll tell you, my ex-husband had 3 professional designations, always make the final list for a job, never be able to do anything. The minute he moved out of the house and we broke up, had nothing to do with the house, nothing. Now, again, people say, well, that could have been a coincidence or whatever. No, I really believe he was kind of away from that energy and blossomed.
It changes. That's why it's so important to be, in control. Michael, okay, there's a few questions. Do you think the Catholic Church hides alien secrets or sees them as demons?
I was thinking we didn't even get to that, because that's a whole other thing. With
it is. We might have to do a part 2. I know. Yes, I believe that they're hiding alien secrets among with many other secrets. I don't think they see them as demons. I think they know very well who's who.
I still want to know what portal that the Pope opened. There were 5 on, was it Christmas Day, the previous Pope? And also, having been, I say I'm a retired Catholic, I have never seen a Pope's funeral like the last one that was for Pope Francis. Ever in a gazillion years have I seen something like that. Have you?
That was weird.
With the black pointed KKK, we'll say, and then the upside down crosses. And that was
well, those are the crosses of St. Peter.
St. Peter, I know that, but still, I've never seen
I know. They were wiggy when you throw everything else in the mix. You're kind of like, That's a little bit bizarre.
And
That was,
portals was their words they use. Like, what did you open?
he looked terrified. He
I
looked
know.
terrified going into one of those, and he was just, I was thinking, that's a whole other show. There's a lot of
I know.
things
Sorry.
there that are. No, I know. I'm saying like there's a lot of stuff that goes on there, and things are coming out. People are
Yes.
just being they're all just being more open about a lot of things right now. Does the Roman Catholic Church at the Vatican link alien abductions to demonic possession or a psychological phenomenon? I don't know personally what they think,
I
or what their thoughts are, or do they link it? I don't know. You would probably have to ask somebody who is maybe one of their exorcists, or a priest who would be willing, or like even I think further down you go down the pipe. I don't even know how much they all really know, but I know that they have access to things that we will never ever see. They have access to things that haven't even been translated yet. There's just nobody here to translate them. Maybe the age of AI will allow some of these things to be translated. I know it's a slow process as it is. My opinion is I think they very well know, who the extraterrestrials are that are active. They have a huge program. I mean, you just look at their telescope, Lucifer.
Oh, I was just thinking that. You just read my mind.
like-minded people. But they have unlimited resources, so they have the money to put into these programs, to test all of this. And as far as psychological phenomenon, they're all about get a psychiatric or psychological assessments for this, and this. So I would have to think that they are very much, into all of the above. I picked D, all of the above.
All of the. I didn't even ask you if you've ever run into a negative entity that was actually ET possession. Have you ever?
I can't say that I have, but maybe I just didn't know what I was looking for.
That's what I was thinking, because,
Right?
it's all about semantics. It's bad and it shouldn't be there, and it's creating havoc.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, right? Like I could tell you at least half of the people and families I worked with also had extraterrestrial sightings or experiences.
I did. And I had one that's a friend of mine, gifted friend that was a medium. I still have the recording tape with her permission. And it was years ago. And she said, I've never encountered anything like this. And she said, I'm hearing noises like right out of Star Trek, and was talking about all kinds of things. I thought she had flipped her lid, to tell you the truth. And then as I finished, I was nice. And I went, no. And we don't do these kind of things, but I use it as a metaphor. If this person would give me the lottery numbers today, I would go out and buy a ticket. Like, that's how reliable. And then that was really, really, really what opened that door for me. I always believed in ET and stuff. That's when I really went down the rabbit hole.
See, there's lots of rabbit holes, though, isn't there, Lorilei? Like, oh my gosh, we could be doing a show just on this every freaking month. You really could. You really could. And that makes a good point. She goes, I think that he was an anti-pope. And notice he didn't live in the papal apartments, was not buried with the other popes, and started turning green in the casket on the third day. Maybe he was.
I did not know about the greenness. Wow.
I didn't know about that part either. Yeah.
And why green? I've never heard of a body going green before. There's a lot of other colors, but green?
I know. So, a lot of there goes on secret. Well, I have a logical reason for it, and you might have some people saying that, they're just dark, and it could be both. But a snake was actually a symbol of knowledge.
There is a picture of a giant snake from the Vatican. I don't know what part
the
of
auditorium. That's the new auditorium.
I've seen the picture.
You look at it from overhead. It looks like the head of a snake, and it's got two windows with red eyes.
Yes. That's
so that it could be because it's an ancient symbol, or could it just be that, exactly what people think it is? I don't know. Right?
Michelle Wilfong, a snake, really? Oh yeah.
It is. You guys can see it. Michael says, could alien encounters be demonic possession per Catholic exorcist or just cosmic mysteries? Are there non-human intelligence phenomena seen by the Vatican as demonic pregnancy? Obviously, the Vatican has info. And the Vatican probably be the only one who's got that info. I wish I could answer that. I really do. I think it's all a possibility.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Or is it, okay.
Go ahead, Michelle. So I was just going to say again, if you're asking the question, right?
Yeah.
Got to be somewhere out in the universe, because I was kind of thinking some of these things as well when I asked you, had you run into ET claiming to be something demonic or feeling like that? And that's what I try to say to people. Like most of, I know you have good feeling and you have sight, and a lot of people do, as well as myself, depending on what it is. But I've also said you're dealing with something that's older than time. We are one tiny little puny human, most of us, not including yourself, because I know you deal with a lot of this. But it's very easy to trick a lot of people because we have not educationally been taught to feel, sense, and also how powerful we are with our own minds, thoughts, words, and emotions, right? So I don't know, is ET dressing up as a demon or vice versa? Who knows?
Are we misinterpreting? I've heard people who are in the field of ufology who have said, no, for example, if you see a reptilian, would you think that's a demon? If you see a light being, would you say that's an angel? A lot of what we had in the past were mistaken as either gods, or angels, and they look completely different than what we would anticipate. Archangel isn't believed to be what we perceive it to be. They're just things that we have misinterpreted. And people in the field have said, oh no, there's a difference between a reptilian, a draconian, and an actual demonic entity. They seem to be their own race of beings, like archons that just feed off of the energy of the living and sort of, try to trap us in this cycle. And they believe strongly that's what the cycle of reincarnation is just to keep the cycle going.
How many times I have heard that word today? That's the cycle of reincarnation, probably 10 times not looking for it.
See, I know, right? Yeah, I know. There is a lot of that. And I could tell you this. I worked with a family and one night, I like to tell the story because it was very unusual. The family was away. The older son came to stay at the house so he could take care of the dog. So he was outside with a friend, and they were just around the fire. And then all of a sudden, they could hear drums and all kinds of things like that. And she got uncomfortable and said, "Yeah, I'm going to leave." And he goes, "Yeah, okay, no worries, I understand." So he goes in the house and he decides, "I'm going to let the dog out one last time before we go to bed." All of a sudden, the dog is losing his mind. You know how we talked about how if animals can see things, dog is off his nut, not doing his business. Guy's like, "Look, man, just do your business. We're going to get you in the house." Yeah, we're done. Dog is not having it. And anyway, he turns around and he looks back like, what's the dog on about? And there was this really tall being with a hood. And it looked like a bit of a snout and red eyes. Grabs the dog, hightails it into the house, slams the door, locks it. All of a sudden, something bangs on the door, and then you could hear sniffing along the top of the door frame.
Oh, gross.
Here's the kicker, though. So when research started being done about this, a few miles away, kilometers away, a family had experiences with grays in the barn. Their workers left the site because they were doing renovations because there was a gray in the barn. And that night, in fact, that whole week, the police department got multiple calls from a craft that was in the area.
Okay.
So I don't know. It's that link again.
Yeah, but so maybe it wasn't great. I'm thinking, did something happen maybe to its suit? Was this the best way it could show itself so it could maintain it? If you're wearing a black cloak, even though your eyes are red, it's going to maintain you a lot better than bright. Well, I'm going to say bright gray, but it's not like it's going to blend in with the darkness, right?
Yes, exactly. When says the book of Enoch said, the angels descended from heaven in a ball of fire and came upon man and said, fear not. Then the angel showed Enoch the kingdom of heaven within the palm of his hand. Sounds a bit like a cell phone to me, or a tablet of some sort.
Exactly.
So he says, was it just advanced technology like a phone or tablet showing primitive humans the place from which they came from?
I have a theory, and again, who knows if it's right or wrong. I believe we are between the fifth and seventh iteration of what we would call Earth, and that we get to a certain point and we mess it all up, because if you can't learn from your prior mistakes or history, you're destined to keep repeating the same mistakes over and over. And I think I've seen it. I can't say for sure, but I've seen certain hieroglyphics and things that almost look like a laptop or a cell phone.
Yes.
So
100%. I believe it is. I believe it's all connected, and it's just, misinterpretation, which happens a lot. You don't necessarily, the ancients may not necessarily know how to describe what they have seen. They're seeing what they call it a chariot, which is a craft. Michael says it's definitely is totally connected. Non-human intelligent, ancient history, secret knowledge, and the satanic imagery and dark energies. Fascinating deep dive, a bit spooky and concerning, but nevertheless intriguing. 100%. I agree with you. Yeah, on that one. I have seen hieroglyphs of pharaohs holding something like a tablet.
Yeah. Yeah, Carrie.
Yeah.
So that's the thing, right? And then you get into, if you dig into it, you look at the Dead Sea. Apparently, if you look at it from above the earth, and this is before AI, it looks like a big scorch mark, and readings have been taken there. And supposedly there's still very high radiation radiating from it. So could it have been maybe a meteor or something? Possibly. But what if there was something going on? We would never know.
Yeah, the pine cone, pineal gland.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, there's stuff out there that we're never going to have all the answers to. But I love that so many people now seem to be more open to sharing their experiences, because I think a lot of it has to do with shows like Paranormal Survivor. There's so many.
I was just thinking
The Haunted, and there's so many out there, and I often had people, because I've consulted on a lot of these shows, not just in front of camera, but off camera, and putting the shows together, bringing people forward to talk about it, because that's just how many people I've worked with. And one thing they always wanted to say, or they always wanted to get out there, because not everybody wanted to be on TV. They're like, no, absolutely no, it was a traumatic experience. Then you had a lot actually who would come forward and say, look, I want to tell my story because I didn't know this was real. I didn't know this was a thing. And I want other people to know that this is a thing, and that there is a way to get help, and that people are listening. And I thought, wow, because this is our way of giving back.
That's why we shared our story. That was the only reason. I wasn't looking to be on TV. I wanted people to know exactly. It's kind of what you said, that these kind of things really do happen. And it didn't matter what happened. Like, I swear again on my children's heads that every time we found someone that could possibly help, something would happen. They'd get sick. There'd be a death. Like I said, I could go on and on and on. And I thought, well, at least if we share it, maybe there's somebody that'll see this and be able to help. What ended up happening was we left the house, but I had figured out, like I said, about energy, and it stopped a lot, not all of it, but it stopped a lot by raising the energy or the vibration in the home. It stopped a lot.
You starve them, and that, I mean, this is where you even get, even when you're at a place and you just have a spirit, like they draw on your energy, which makes them strong enough to be able to communicate or move around. You're dealing on something that's a lot more energy starved, like I remember early days, a researcher saying to me, I think it might even have been Lorraine Warren, and she said, the only thing that has enough strength to move appliances around or very heavy objects would be a demonic energy. And I thought, oh, that's very interesting. I always kept it at the back of my mind, you know, and I
Do
thought,
you
okay.
believe that now, though?
Well, I know that spirits can move some things around, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Do they have enough energy, you know, to move really heavy objects? I don't know. I can tell you that projected energy,
Or
like
think about
psychokinesis, can create footsteps and things to open and close. And like, we're pretty powerful beings. I imagine we'd be more
that's where
powerful.
I'm going with this. So, say
Yeah.
you've got a human being that passed away with a
Mhm.
lot of rage, and for
Mhm.
whatever reason has stayed earthbound, and maybe finds like people, and they're, if you will,
Mhm.
it's a terrible name, a ghost gang, whatever you want. I'm not saying I've run into it or whatever, but I think if you had a collective, and especially
Mhm.
rage, energy, especially anger, it's a very kinetic feeling type
Yeah.
emotion, right? And I could see with rage, possibly. Hmm.
Mhm. I think
Hmm.
so. I believe I've come to learn, and some of the things that I've seen and some of the things I've experienced, some of the things that I have heard from people. I mean, people tend to get, you know, if they truly have something going on, they're the ones that get the best, you know, evidence, pictures, or, you know, recordings, even though, I mean, they shouldn't. Sometimes, like, no, because they so desperately want to be believed that they're
Hmm.
capturing these images, which sometimes encourages, you know, the activity, only because, you know, if you're putting something out there, whether it's a voice recorder, whether whatever,
Hmm.
ghost box, pendulum, whatever the case may be, if you're inviting that communication because you need to be validated and it's the only way to do it, they're looking at it potentially as, well, you know, you wanted to talk to me.
I
Okay, you're going to
used to
talk to
get
me.
angry. I can vouch for
Yeah.
this. When in the beginning, and I was looking for help, and then I had some people who were much more knowledgeable saying the more attention you give to this in the way of talking about it, speaking about it, and I mean
Hmm.
it was a 20-hour a day job. And
Hmm.
then as I became more knowledgeable and understood this, I got exactly what they were telling me. Yeah, you can't keep talking about it. You can't keep, because you get into the emotion of what you were experiencing while you're going through it.
Hmm.
And nobody's negating how someone feels. You just don't feed it. Don't feed it. Just kind of like we don't feed the trolls, you don't feed them either, right? And
Yeah.
it made a lot more sense to me. So I'm agreeing with you 100% from personal experience many years ago. Hmm.
I again, it's just through trial and error. I remember being called in by a woman. Luckily, it was in the same city I was in, so I was able to say, okay, I think I can tackle it. Um, and her husband had passed, and she goes, I need you to tell me if this is my husband. And I'm like, okay, whatever. She played a voice recording on her answering machine. And this thing was calling her an effing.
Did he talk to you like that in life?
I know, right? And
Well,
I think, and it was growling, and yeah, that's what I said. I said, "Does your husband like you?" Like I said, I
yeah.
don't mean to be facetious, but that does not sound even human to me. You know,
Hmm.
it turned out that she connected with she wanted so desperately to get a message from him. She connected with an EVP group out of the US, and who were encouraging her to do voice recordings. It got so bad that something came in as this was happening, and it got worse and worse and worse. I finally had to, I don't walk away, you know, I don't like to leave people vulnerable, but you know, the last straw for me was she wanted to do necromancing. She goes, I
Oh, you're
need you to
fine.
help me. I need you to help me bring my husband back to the physical. I says, I'm out.
I'm
She
glad.
had a whole group of people who wanted to do this. It took years. 3 years later, 2 years later, I heard from her, and she said things got really bad. And I don't blame you for stepping aside. So I've offered help everywhere I can. But you know, you not only did you leave your foot in the door, you left it wide open every time I
Kicked it
left the house.
open. You kicked
Yeah,
it open.
exactly. It's really hard. And sometimes, you know, she goes, no, I needed to go through that process, and it helped me heal. And by the time a few years later, you know, came back around, I was able to go in and help her get the place clear. And then, and then she was able to heal. And it's
Mhm.
incredible how I often hear the same story from people. So as we come into spooky month and this time of year, and
Mhm.
we seem to have this fascination for not just spirit activity. But it's like media. All the media will show you, paranormal. Yeah, the more dangerous, the better. Like, how many times have you heard me say, the whole world probably thinks I run around screaming demon, whereas I'm pretty darn logical, but it doesn't sell. Logic doesn't always sell.
It doesn't.
So, but the D word tends to sell. And people seem very surprised when they would ask me to come in and help them and go, saw a demon? I'm just like, oh, don't we think it
No.
is? No.
No.
Yeah, sorry.
Sorry
But
to disappoint.
I know, yeah, it's kind of the big letdown. But what is it do you think that drives people to want to have this ultimate scare, and sometimes with a very big risk?
I think it's kind of like the same reason why people are fascinated with serial killers, right? You see it on TV, you read about it, you hear about it, and it's kind of almost a curiosity about how somebody could be that twisted, that evil, that whatever. So when it comes to a demon, depending on the TV show, it's constantly everything's a demon, and the things that you see and the way they act. Like, I've seen so many people want to emulate that and just really know, is this real? Is it not? Like, I don't think it's real. I think it's TV, right? And it's almost like they get oversaturated with it. Some people have a desire to get famous from being on TV. I've seen that too. It just depends. I think it's a variety of reasons. And it's kind of like the boogeyman that you were told was never real as a child. And here it is. And you're seeing real people talking about their experiences. It's almost like, is it real? Should I do it? Should I not? Like, and pursuing it that way. That's what I believe. What's your thoughts? I know we got to go.
Oh, yeah, I always have that time. I always have a bit of time. My thoughts are, especially with television, I've done so much of it, and I get to see how things work on both sides of things, because I do spend a lot of time creating behind the scenes, but television has a way of leading you astray. And for people who aren't researchers and they see something, you think this is how it is. It's not necessarily how it is. I never went looking for television, and I was very humbled that it came to me, but I still learned a hard lesson, because it was my name, my image that was out there. And I'm trying to undo the fact that, no, I don't think everything in life is a damn demon. Sorry, I do not.
I don't either. And
but I've lived it.
Yeah, you just don't know, but they're not that common. We're not looking around every corner.
But you again, you lived that. You understand that there is. I've lived through that. I understand that there is, but it's not every case. It's not every situation. Attachments can often come also from human spirits, who just don't want to let go.
I was thinking that because I have seen it where it's almost like people that have problems with substances. We'll use alcohol, for example. You can't physically experience it. Say you've got something earthbound and it can't experience it, but had those problems, right? One way to experience it.
No, it's true. It's true. I think moving forward, it's very important as you guys start getting into, because there's all kinds of tours that go on all month long, and go in just, again, with a grain of salt, careful what you wish for.
Yes.
I strongly encourage people to be, go out with like-minded individuals, go to organized tours. A lot of them will teach you how to properly use equipment, or they will give you the history of the locations in hopes that you might get a really great experience. Do whatever it does, whatever it takes, whatever gives you strength and faith to just say, no, nobody's coming home with me. That's it. And be aware. Be aware, because sometimes there's things out there that take those requests very seriously.
And again, how I can empower people is to stand in the power that if this was a human being and they were insisting they go home with you, or whatever it may be, use that energy. You don't have to get angry, but very, very, if you will, forceful, assertive, and nothing is coming home with me. You're staying here. It's a great night. Thank you very much. But you stay there. I'm going home.
Exactly. Not allowed to come over. That's it, right? So that's it. Expect your space. Is there possible connection, possession, and narcissism, particularly malignant narcissism? What are your thoughts, Lorilei?
I can't, what it is, if you look at it, and again, I'm not allowed to diagnose, but when you are, I think it has to do with energy when you get it. And that could be physical, ways you affect your personal energy, personal space, if you want to call it aura, whether you use illicit substances, even things that are legal, whatever you do to kind of weaken that. And that includes the way you think. So if you're a glass half empty and you're a really negative person, there's many, we can do a whole show on that, but I don't think it's necessarily just malignant narcissism. I think it's about the person. It's kind of a bits and pieces of a whole that make you who you are, and whether you might be more attractive to something very dark and deep and negative. What's your thoughts, Michelle?
I agree. I think there are people who, like I was saying earlier, it's very possible that there are people in this situation who may have an attachment. Some people go through their entire life
Never knowing.
never knowing. Sometimes it's generational. Sometimes it's karmic. Sometimes you just pick something up along the way. It's not always like in your face. Everything goes crazy. Sometimes it's just, that little nattering thing in your mind that gives you bad decisions or makes everything in your life go wrong. And you just never put it together. And why would you? It's sometimes considered so far removed from everyday life. And some people don't believe in any of this stuff. It doesn't mean it doesn't happen to them. You can say, I don't believe in this. I don't believe in this. Doesn't mean they don't believe in you. Doesn't mean they're not aware of you, right? We don't all go out places, like I investigate. I take that chance. But on an average, people don't go out every single day, to work. What about that person that goes door to door, a technician, whatever, going to put your phone in, going to just fix your furnace. You take chance every time you go in somebody's houses. You don't go looking, thinking in your mind, oh, I better not get an attachment here. Sometimes it just happens, and you never know what hits you until it hits you. And sometimes you could be in the grave and then you realize, Jesus, this thing has been with me. We've seen spirits with attachments.
We need to do a show on that one.
We should. You know what? Because I'll tell you something. We've had spirits with attachments who have essentially don't even realize, that, oh, wait, I murdered my wife, and you remove the attachment. And it's like, wait a minute, I murdered my wife. And then all of a sudden it hits them because there's nothing there anymore. And you see with clarity the end game for demonic energies and some entities. It's always about soul energy. They don't care about the physical. The physical is just something that gets in the way.
Yeah. It's just a pesky thing they have to deal with. That's what they're after. And that's just given me so much food for thought. But you are absolutely. Wayne says, Michelle often says that I can be that nattering little voice. LOL. You're always talking and singing and making sounds.
I've said that. I've said it. Like, always talking, singing, making sounds. I never know what my head's doing anymore.
That's funny. Aww.
We laugh about it. Yeah. But no, I absolutely agree with you. And yes, I think we should definitely do like a part 2 and take it to that.
The other thing I want to add, because I made a joke and I said something about antiques and possibly having energy with it. But what I want to tell people, that was kind of a joke, because it doesn't necessarily just mean antiques. What people don't realize is by the time you buy stuff in a store, how many hands have touched it, how many places it has come through. There is so much energy that could be collected or connected. That's why, because I was joking about antiques, but it could be anything. And I'm not saying be paranoid.
Think about who made it. No, but who made it? The energy. What about the person who made that 100 years ago? There were artisans back there
think
too.
About something you're buying from a store, because I had on one of my shows, somebody was talking about they had bought a dream catcher and had this horrific haunting, and we're giving a warning in the chat, and I had said, I'm very sorry you went through that experience, but I also talked to them about that if you had bought that, for example, or say you bought anything, and again, we're all empowered with the fact that you can certainly, if you can bless water and you can see a microscopic change, human beings are powerful. Why do you think I think people used to pray? A lot of people still do, but a lot of people don't, over their meals or whatever. You can do that. You can clear it. You can put anything you want into your water. power, energy. It's when you really understand it, I think it really helps in a way without getting arrogant, but starting to understand how this unseen world works, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. So,
Mm-hmm.
who you got? What do you got coming up tomorrow? What's on Beneath the Hollow Moon? What are you guys doing?
So we are talking about Bradshaw Ranch tomorrow.
Ooh.
Now, I have contacted a friend of mine who has been on the Angel Rock a few times, Tom Dongo.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure where we don't normally have guests, but I know he has got crazy stories. He's got pictures. So I haven't talked to Kerrilynn yet, but we usually have a story by the end of the show. People send in. So I don't know if we can maybe sneak him in towards the end or something, but he's written a book. So that's where we're going tomorrow, to Bradshaw Ranch.
Yes. Ooh, well, that sounds very exciting. And
Mm.
for those of you guys who are going to be tuning in with us
Right
tomorrow,
after
with us tomorrow evening, Wayne joins me for another open mic, Mirror on the Wall. We're going to be talking mirrors, portals, scrying, black mirrors, ancient belief systems, all kinds of stuff. It's going to be a lot of fun, and get ready. Let's just have a good time, laid back, and let's see where it takes us.
Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed this. This just flew right by, and such always a great audience.
Thank you. Well, we always have great shows and great conversations, and we will do it again because we do run out of time, and then there's a whole bunch of stuff we didn't get to. So we're definitely going to have to do
so much more.
Yes, and we will do it. We will do it for sure. So until then, good night, everybody. Thank you all for tuning in to the Outer Realm. We shall see you tomorrow evening.
Thank you.
Good night.
Bye.